Injuries throughout an NFL season happen.
That just happened.
And while there haven't been nearly as many as, well, say last year, that doesn't mean that the injuries that have happened aren't impactful.
Watch right here. Oh, he rolled his ankle. Oh my goodness, the left ankle right on top of Jordan Lewis.
The first quarter of the 2021 NFL regular season was unfortunately filled with injuries to several stars. Here are the 10 most devastating injuries of the 2021 NFL season so far. Tua Tagovailoa. Coming off a surprise 10-win season, the Miami Dolphins were widely expected to contend for a playoff spot once again in 2021. They rebuilt the supporting cast around Tua Tagovailoa, adding Will Fuller in free agency and drafting Jalen Waddle with the 6th overall pick in the draft. But the Dolphins season essentially cratered when Tagovailoa suffered fractured ribs in the team's embarrassing 35-0 Week 2 home loss to the Buffalo Bills. The Dolphins proceeded to lose each of their next 3 games without Tua, dropping them to 1-4 following a convincing road win over the New England Patriots to open the season. Tua's injury all but derailed a season with fairly high expectations in South Beach. Backup Jacoby Brissett just couldn't get this offense going in relief of the 2020 5th overall pick. If Tua was healthy, Miami most likely wouldn't be 1-4. You have to think that they would have gotten past the Las Vegas Raiders in Week 3, considering that Brissett took that game to overtime. And they could have totally beaten the vulnerable Indianapolis Colts in Week 4 as well. But Tua's injury has shown just how much this Miami team needs him. Their playoff hopes evaporated without him, and barring a miraculous midseason surge, which we wouldn't count on by the way, you have to think major changes are coming to a team that is poised to miss the postseason for the 5th straight year. Russell Wilson. The Seattle Seahawks franchise star didn't miss a single game in his first 9 seasons. Unfortunately, Wilson's Iron Man streak came to an end when he suffered a finger injury in Seattle's Week 5 loss to the Rams. Wilson was ruled out for several weeks after suffering a ruptured tendon in the middle finger of his right throwing hand. And suddenly, Seattle went from playoff contender to very likely suffering their first losing season since 2011, the year before Wilson entered the league. The Seahawks are once again fielding one of the league's worst offensive lines and a downright atrocious defense that can't stop anything. And all of this happened following off-season reports that Wilson was unhappy with Seattle management and wanted to trade. Seattle was a borderline playoff contender with Wilson leading their potent offense. Without him, this team is done. They're just not gonna compete in an NFC that's loaded with competitive teams like the Rams, Cardinals, Cowboys, Buccaneers, Vikings, Saints, and 49ers. You can go ahead and write off the Seahawks in 2021. The real question now is if Wilson will stick around for another season, or if 2021 is his last dance with the only franchise he's ever played for. Saquon Barkley. For the 3rd straight year, the New York Giants star running back has been hampered by injuries. An absolute shame for a generational talent. Barkley missed 3 games in 2019, suffered a torn ACL in Week 2 of last year, and is once again battling injuries in his 4th season. And predictably, the Giants' offense has struggled without him. New York limited Barkley's workload in their first 2 games as he slowly worked his way back from injury. Then he went off in a come-from-behind Week 4 win against the Saints, posting 52 rushing yards on 13 carries and 5 catches for 74 yards and 2 total touchdowns. Barkley suffered an ankle injury in the Giants' ugly Week 5 road loss to the rival Dallas Cowboys, and he was ruled out of action for a few weeks. Without a healthy Barkley, it'll be tough for a Giants team that was already at the bottom of the standings to bounce back in 2021. Daniel Jones has looked much better compared to what we've seen from him in the previous 2 years, but without his do-it-all running back, New York's offense is greatly limited. Who knows how much better the Giants' record could have been had Barkley entered the season 100% healthy. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and now he's dealing with yet another injury. Add it all up, and it's shaping to be another rough year in the Meadowlands. Trent Brown. The offensive line was a perennial strength for the New England Patriots, both in the run blocking and pass protection departments. But in 2021, the O-line has been perhaps the group's weakest link, and Brown's absence is a clear reason why. Brown was a key anchor in the Patriots' Super Bowl 53 championship team. Most notably, he helped fend off Aaron Donald in the Rams' high-powered pass rush in the big game. After 2 years with the Raiders, Brown was traded back to New England in the offseason. He suffered a calf injury in the team's Week 1 loss to Miami and proceeded to miss the team's next 3 games before getting placed on the injured reserve. It's a giant loss for the Patriots, to say the least. According to Pro Football Focus, Brown only allowed 1 sack over the 2019 and 2020 seasons. The Patriots O-line got wrecked in pass protection without Brown, allowing rookie Mac Jones to take 3 sacks in Week 2 against the lowly New York Jets, 2 more in a Week 3 home loss to the Saints, and a whopping 4 sacks in their Week 4 Sunday nighter against Tampa. Could the Pats have spoiled Tom Brady's homecoming if Brown was in the game? Jones was under duress throughout the entire contest, and he still nearly led this team to victory. And the same goes for the Patriots' loss to the Saints. If Brown was there to help in pass protection, does the outcome change for New England? Bill Belichick's team just isn't the playoff contender that we expected them to be, and it largely starts with the regression of that O-line. Brown's value to this team should not be underestimated, and we're seeing why as the Patriots struggle without him. Bradley Chubb. Chubb missed the Denver Broncos season-opening win over the Giants before making his season debut in Week 2 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a 23-13 victory. However, Chubb required ankle surgery after the 2-0 start, and he was ruled out for 6 to 8 weeks. To say that the Broncos' suffocating defense has greatly missed Chubb would be a massive understatement. Von Miller is having a vintage Von Miller season, but the rest of the defensive line hasn't exactly picked up the slack without Chubb. A promising 3-0 start was forgotten about quickly when Denver fell to the Ravens and Steelers over the next 2 weeks without Chubb. This defense just isn't the same without him. Chubb has had 1 healthy season, his 2018 rookie year when he notched 12 sacks. If only the Broncos could have him and Miller on the field together for a full year. The sky would be the limit for this defense. Blake Martinez. In the 2020 offseason, the Giants signed workhorse linebacker Blake Martinez to a 3-year deal worth $30 million. He flourished in year 1 with his new team, racking up 151 total tackles to go along with 3 sacks, an interception, 5 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. Martinez was a huge factor in the Giants' turnaround on defense. They went from 30th in scoring the year before to 9th in 2020. They also ranked 12th in total defense and forced 22 takeaways. But Patrick Graham's defense has regressed mightily in 2021, and Martinez's ACL tear he suffered in Week 3, which ended his season, is clearly a reason why. The dude was a big-time impact player and a true leader on that defense. He was the perfect fit for Joe Judge's pesky group, and there's simply no replacing someone of his caliber. New York's defense has fallen apart in just about every aspect, and without Martinez, it's hard to imagine things getting any better as the G-men try to stay alive in the NFC East race. Martinez's value to the team has been on full display during his absence. They better hope he can at least recover in time for the 2022 season. They're gonna need him. Raheem Mostert. For the second straight year, the 49ers have been hit hard by injuries. Through the first quarter of the season, however, no player's absence was more impactful than Raheem Mostert's. The 49ers' 2019 playoff hero was limited to 8 games in 2020, and unfortunately, he suffered a knee injury in Week 1 of this season against the Detroit Lions, prompting him to undergo season-ending surgery. The usually powerful San Fran rushing game has struggled without Mostert ever since. His 2020 understudy, Jeff Wilson, has been sidelined for half of the season, while this year's backup, Elijah Mitchell, missed weeks 3 and 4 with a shoulder injury. The ground game hasn't been able to survive without these guys, and it's been easier for defenses to play against San Fran's inconsistent quarterbacking duo of Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. San Fran dropped 3 in a row following a perfect 2-0 start. Trey Sermon doesn't look like a guy who's ready to carry the load just yet. Mostert was supposed to be that guy for the Niners in 2021, and their once dominant ground attack is clearly suffering without him. Jaire Alexander. The Green Bay Packers defense was lit up by the 49ers and the Bucs in the 2019 and 2020 NFC Championship games respectively. That was despite the presence of superstar cornerback Jaire Alexander. So how is this team supposed to take the next step in 2021 now that their shutdown corner is set to miss a significant amount of time? Alexander suffered a shoulder injury against Pittsburgh in Week 4, and the hope is that he will avoid season-ending surgery and return to the team at some point. But there's no certainty yet, as the Packers plan to wait and see how the injury heals after a few weeks, placing him on injured reserve in the meantime. Even if Alexander is able to avoid surgery and return this season, you have to think his absence will still have an effect on Green Bay's bid to secure the top spot in the NFC. Something they'll want if they hope to have home field advantage during their run to the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is just that much better at home in the postseason compared to on the road, and having to play 1 or 2 away games en route to the big game is no easy task. Green Bay's defense has mostly gotten by without Alexander up to this point, but losing arguably the game's best corner for a lengthy period is a tough pill to swallow. And who knows how healthy he'll even be if/when he returns this season. Christian McCaffrey. For the second straight year, the NFL's most exciting explosive running back is injured. Run CMC was limited to 3 games in 2020 because of a high ankle sprain and a shoulder injury. In Week 3 against the Houston Texans, McCaffrey suffered a hamstring injury and had to leave the game. Carolina won the contest, but they proceeded to drop their next 2 games following a perfect 3-0 start without their superstar back. McCaffrey, 2 years removed from the third 1,000 rushing/1,000 receiving yard season in NFL history, is simply irreplaceable. The highly skilled Carolina offense just isn't the same machine without McCaffrey, as we all saw in 2020. Carolina went from a surprise team through 3 weeks of the season to suddenly being a very vulnerable squad. The Panthers simply won't stay in the playoff race if McCaffrey can't stay healthy for the majority of the season. Plain and simple. Quenton Nelson. The play of Carson Wentz, and not the offensive line, was the primary concern for the Colts entering the regular season. Well, the Wentz has been one of the few positives on the Colts, while the O-line has been downright disappointing. The Colts only allowed 19 sacks in all of 2020. The first 5 games of 2021, Wentz was sacked 12 times. Losing All-Pro left guard Quenton Nelson to an ankle injury against the Tennessee Titans in Week 3 has led to the downward spiral. The Colts offense largely depends on Nelson, who's arguably the NFL's top offensive lineman. But without Nelson, Wentz has been forced to scramble and take more hits and sacks than originally expected. Who knows, maybe a fully healthy Nelson prevents Indianapolis from starting out a brutal 1-4. Maybe he helps them stave off the Ravens' comeback in Week 5. Frank Reich is one of the best when it comes to adapting, being on his 4th quarterback in as many years and all. But even the best can't get by without the presence of their best player, which is exactly what Nelson is to the Colts. But which do you think is the most devastating injury of the 2021 season so far? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.